So today I'm going to teach routing. Day 5. ASP.NET Core routing. Okay. What is routing? Why do we need a routing? Whenever you make a request, okay. First point, whenever we make a request with URL. Whenever we make a request with URL. You got my point? That URL will be catched by routing concept in ASP.NET Core. Routing concept in ASP.NET Core. That is your first point. The second point, after routing has been catched, it has lot of pages. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, like that you will have a lot of pages, right? In ASP.NET, we already created default.aspx, admin.aspx, like home.aspx, like that we created n number of pages, right, in ASP.NET. Similar fashion here, the routing will get HTTP request will contain URL, and routing will get HTTP request which contain URL and method name. Or you got my point? HTTP method type. What is your HTTP method type, ma? What are the types we discussed earlier? What are all the HTTP method types we have? 4 types we discussed. What are all they? Get, post, put, delete. You got my point? So the URL will tell you that what type of request this is going to give. URL will tell us what is the type of post will give. Will HTTP request will contain URL and automatically matched with corresponding endpoints. Here endpoints are treated as middleware. Associated with the endpoint. If I have 10 middlewares, all the 10 middleware associated with the 10 endpoints. You got my point? So if I create a endpoint 1, endpoint 2, endpoint 3, endpoint 4. You got my point? So to build this, Priti, you understand what I am talking? Priti and Chaitanya.
Yes, sir.
Suresh, Pranit, to build these endpoints and routing, we use app.useRouting, which we discussed yesterday. Lot of concepts, right? To call what is the sequence of middleware execution. In that you will have app.useRouting and then app.useEndpoints. App.useEndpoints. These are all the 2 methods which will enable to build endpoints and routing. So what is the ASP.NET routing? When we make a request with URL in a client browser, in a client browser. URL will be catched by routing concept in ASP.NET Core. How the routing will be work? Routing will get HTTP request will contain URL and HTTP method type. What are all the method type we seen? Get, post, put, delete, and automatically match with corresponding endpoint. Here, endpoints are treated as middleware. To build these endpoints and routing, we use app.use routing, app.use endpoints. Let's see how to build that. Visual Studio. The recording is going on? Yes. Continue with code. File, new project, ASP.NET Core empty. Next, sample, I can say sample core routing application. I'm creating a project as sample core routing application. Go here, go to E drive, bit.net, ASP.NET Core, select the folder. Next, and I'm going to remove the configure HTTPS create. Now you see sample core overview. Now go to Solution Explorer. You will have program.cs. Now I am removing this map.get. Okay, and I am saving. Now when you run the project, it will not work. It will say error. You see. So this is very, very important concept and topic. You should be more careful because this will tell that whom to call, when to call. Okay. If you are not able to learn, see now what it is saying. Guys, come on, unmute yourself. What it is saying? Hello.
The local host page can be found.
So no page can be found. Even though I run the project, no page can be found. To bring that one, app.use routing. The first thing you have to create app.use routing. What is it saying? It is a middleware to specify the routing mechanism. Right? And then this is the only thing you have to do. After that, it is always giving me configure your endpoint. I can simply say context here. Something wrong. 1 second. Here you have to provide endpoints dot map. I'm mapping an endpoint. Here I say map 1. Here I say map 1, comma. Here I am going to configure my middleware. What is the middleware I can write here? Here you have to say context. You have to have a context. Right. You have to have a context. What is your context? Context dot response dot write async to say in map 1. Right, but still I have an issue. Why? Because you have to use async here. Async. Because anything you have to call as a async method. When you use async method, what you need to do here? Await. Now see, everything gone. So I had configured an endpoint. This is my endpoint 1. Okay. Now I'm trying to create another endpoint. What is my next endpoint? Endpoints dot map. I can say about. See, here I'm going to make it as home. Listen carefully. I'm creating an endpoint. Comma async, where I have a context. Where I have a context. What do you need to write here? Await context. Context dot response dot write async of in about method. Right? So here I have a add method. Here I have a home method. So I can say here home method. Clear my point? So whenever this app.routing executed, these endpoints will be automatically configured. These endpoints will be automatically configured. Let me run the project. Still, I will get a non-error, page can't found error. Why? Because you are configured the URL in this manner. What is the manner you are configured? http://localhost/home. Then only home middleware will execute. Home middleware will execute. Right. Similar way, if we use http://localhost/about, which middleware will execute? About middleware will execute. About middleware will execute. Suppose if I pass only localhost, what will happen? If I pass only localhost, what will happen? This will not mapped with. This will not mapped with any middleware. So it will not execute. It don't know whom to call, whom to map. Am I right or wrong? To avoid this situation, to avoid this situation, we can use, listen carefully, we can use app.run method. Run method under run app.run method. Okay. Under run, you can configure a middleware. Make sense? Everybody clear? Everybody clear? Pranit, Suresh, Chaitanya, Kriti?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
sir.
you see here, if you look into here, you will have use endpoint method, you will have routing method. But I'm going to give a default app dot run. Here I'm going to use async. I'm going to use a method called HTTP context, which we done yesterday. Context. Right. I'll say here await context dot response dot write async default URL mapping. Always a best practice to have /n. Now save the project. So what happened in this program? Under a builder, first I created a builder object. Whatever the request comes, what will happen? A builder will create a web application object. After that, whenever the builder start builded, an app request will be created. After app request, you are using routing. You are using routing to define the middleware for the endpoints. Under the use endpoints, I configured two endpoints. What are all the endpoints I configured? Home and about. After endpoint, if at all I'm not passing a URL like this, you can simply comment out here //use. Here you can simply comment out // you can say about. Now build the project, build succeeded, run. Which one is working? Which one is working, ma? Guys,
Default.
please tell me. Which method is working?
Yeah, that runs.
App dot
Run.
app dot run working. Now I'm putting a breakpoint. Put a breakpoint. And here also I can make a breakpoint. Right? I had 3 breakpoints. Now in the URL, when I say /home, enter. Which one is accessing? Which one is accessing? Home. Priti, you got the point?
Yes, sir.
So now run it. My home middleware got executed. Clear my point? This is how you have to map your routing and endpoint. This is how you have to map your routing and endpoint. Anybody have any questions? Pranit, Priti, Chaitanya?
No, sir.
No, sir.
What if, sir, now you all understand, right? How the code will happen. You have to use endpoints. Under endpoints, you have to configure map method. For example, in the map, endpoints.map, has endpoints has three different type of methods. One is maps. One is map. Second one is map get. Third one is map post. Listen carefully. The endpoint has three methods. You see here. When I say map post, I have a map post, I have a map put. Right? If I use map get, I have a map get method. It means that whenever you make a request corresponding to the method you are creating, if it is map get, the home controller should execute. Other than if you are making a request as a post to the user with the home, I won't accept that request. Or you got my point? How do I prove that? Just go here, Google, Chrome, download Postman. Postman download for Windows. Go here, try to download the Postman. 64-bit. I'm installing Postman. I'll prove you how this will work. See how to configure. See, it is loading. There, you go to my Chrome, you will have ITAS Technologies, Gmail, remove from Chrome, allow access, next. Oh my God, password adugutunde. Capital N, Narendra, again capital N, A, 1983. So I thought to configure this postman on my own, but I don't want to do that so that you guys can able to understand. That is the reason I'm taking that. Yes, it's me. Narendra Mupparaju. Narendra Mupparaju or Narendrababu Mupparaju? I don't know. Where is postman? Yeah, this is my postman account. Confirm email. So you will receive an email from the postman. Okay, you can do on your own. No need to worry. Once you receive, you have to go ahead and confirm your email. The moment you confirm your email, you can able to access the postman. Clear? So now it is loading. Continuous ITAS. Done. Verified successfully. Now password what I given. I can use mail ID here. The tool. And my role is. No, I have to give here. Narendrababu Mupparaju. Right. Here my role is architect. Technical architect. Continue. Now I got the postman. This is how I'll get the postman. Now click on new. Click on HTTP. Right? Click on new. Click on HTTP. Here, listen carefully. Here, I'm closing this browsers, which is unnecessary for me. This also I don't need. So I will have only these things. Okay, now you go and run the project. Go on, Run the project. Hey, come on, some issue. No. Build the project. Now go and use IAS Express instead of IAS. Click run. Always your project should be in a runnable mode. Okay. Now it is running. I got default URL mapping. Now copy this URL, go to Postman, paste the URL, send. See, the request is coming from the Postman. Everybody, request is coming from the Postman. Continue. You see, I got a request as URL mapping in the Postman. I got the request and it also give me 200 okay. Clear my point? So this is how you have to test your request. Now, suppose if I give post, when I send, it will work. Even if I put, it will work. Because I'm using normal mapping. Any kind of HTTP method or HTTP request method, it could be get, it could be put, it could be post, it could be delete, it will work. Sir, I want to configure my endpoint corresponding to the HTTP method. How do I do that? So here I will go in the map. I'm going to use only get method. Here I'm going to use only map post. Whenever you use the method type as get, the BOM will work. Whenever you use post will get, post method will work. I got my point. Let me prove you. Run it. Here I got a request. Now here I'm going to use /home. Home is working or not? In home method is working. Preeti, Suresh, Pranit, Chaitanya.
Yes, sir.
You all understand what I'm talking? I'm taking the same URL, go back to the Postman, paste. Now I'm saying here get method. Home is configured with get method or not? Home is configured with get method. Sending the request. Request is working. In case if I go and change into post, send the method, it will not hit. What they are saying? What they are saying? Can anyone read this? A request was made of a resource using a request method not supported by the resource. For example, using get on a form which required data to be presented via post or using put on a read-only resource. It means that if you use map get method, always your request in the form of get. You should not post, you should not put, you should not delete. I got my point. Now come back to the about. Instead of home, can I use about here? It will work. Why? Because I'm using map post. I'm configured my endpoint in the routing, my request type. I'm configured my endpoint in the routing as a request type. You got my point? If your request type is get, you have to submit the request in the form of get. If your request type is post, you have to submit in the form of post. Chaitanya? Chaitanya? You are in mute. Now go back to the get. Will you understand, Chaitanya?
Yes, sir.
Now if you send, you will get method not allowed. Why? Because about is post method. Now you understand how to create a routing and endpoints? Everybody?
Yes, sir.
Pranit? Priti?
Yes, sir.
I can teach you once again. See, this is most important topic in your real time. Okay. Whenever you are using a routing with a different type of URL, whenever you are using a routing with a different type of URL, before you have to use routing mechanism. Okay, let me show you what the routing will happen in the definition. Right click, go to definition. Now what they are saying here, anyone can read this? Anyone can read this?
Which one?
Adds a middleware to the specified application builder. Adds a application to the specified builder. Or you got my point? In that you are using a use endpoints. That is why the use routing mechanism will work. Okay. So whatever the topic I told you is same. What I said here, when we make a request, URL in the client browser, URL will be catched by routing concept in ASP.NET Core. URL will get a HTTP request which contain URL and HTTP method, automatically matched as a corresponding endpoint. Here, endpoint is treated as middleware. I told you, right? Endpoints are always treated as a middleware. To build these endpoints and routing, we have to use this. Sir, can I build an endpoint before routing? Is it possible? Can I build an endpoint before routing? Is it possible? Which I can teach you tomorrow. You got my point? There is a concept called get endpoints. See, app.use method. This is your first method. How to call your controller async. Here, what you will pass? HTTP context, comma, request, delegate as next. Right? Always this is how you have to write your middleware. Now what you will do? Await context dot get endpoint. You see here, get endpoint method. But this should access from the variable called it. See, get endpoint is a collection of class. Get endpoint is a collection of class. What I will do, Microsoft dot ASP.NET Core dot HTTP dot. You see there is an endpoint class where endpoint equal to Microsoft dot Endpoint is a type which is not given valid in the context. I can say endpoints. Something wrong. I'll do one thing. I'll take this out. Enter endpoint equal to null. Okay, take that endpoint. And then we have to use, no, I don't think await is needed. Await next of context. Okay, now build it. Oh, sorry. Okay, fine. Now you see here, I'm using the same here. Okay, I'm using the list of get point. Now I'm putting a breakpoint here, ma. Just listen. For a particular reason, I'm putting an endpoint. When I run the project, you see the builder.context endpoint is null here. Endpoint is null here or not? Everybody, because this code written before routing. So that routing is the method. Use routing is the middleware will try to create endpoints. If the routing doesn't have an endpoint executed, if the routing doesn't execute it, endpoint will not configure. Now what will happen? Continue. Now you see there is an endpoint. Again null. Because these endpoints I'm not passed. Run. It will come to the use method. Run. Continue. See, your code is not disturbed. Now, if you pass home, see your endpoint is null here. Second time when I'm passing the URL as localhost -home. Now when you run, you see the endpoint as an object. The endpoint got an object or not? I'll show you. Control Q, quick watch window. Now you see here, endpoint as an object, which has a metadata. I will teach you later point of time, which has a request to delegate. And the target is, you have a request to delegate. What is the method you need to invoke? Everything will be there. Or you got my point? Now you see, what is my method display name of the endpoint? Home. Method type is home. Method type is what? Get name. And what is my routing pattern? Home. Or you got my point? I told you, right? When you execute routing, you will get two information. You will get URL as well as method name, method type name. You got the both? You got the both? That is my very first definition. That is my very first definition. What is my very first definition here? Can you read this? Routing will get a HTTP request will contain URL and HTTP method type. You got it here? URL and method type. This will automatically run this home controller. You see here. Got the home? Continue. Home method is executed. So, what you learned in this particular get point? Always use. What is your fourth point? Always use get endpoint will be executed. Always get endpoint will be executed after app dot use routing. After of app dot use routing. Or you got my point? If you have changed, what will happen? Your routing will not work. Because the routing will help you to define your endpoints based on the request you are making. For example, you are making a request as localhost / home. Who will catch that particular request first? Your routing. And then routing will match the endpoints. If you are not catching the URL using routing, how do I need to configure the endpoint? Without knowing my routing, do I need to map an endpoint? I will tell you like this. Without knowing version ID address, will you able to allow enter? So you need to know the address, right? Who will decide that? In movie theater, without a ticket, will you go and watch the movie? No, right? So you have to buy a ticket. The ticket will decide that where is your seat. Similar way, routing will help you to buy a ticket. I can simply say, fifth point, app.routing will help us to buy a ticket. App.routing will help us to buy a ticket. Sixth point, app.endpoints will decide the seat of the hall. Seat of the hall based on the ticket. Because you have n number of endpoints. When the URL comes, the routing will decide that which endpoint this particular stuff will be redirected. You all understand? Chaitanya? Chaitanya?
Yes, sir.
Pranit,
Yes, sir.
and Preeti. Suresh?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Preeti? So, that's all for today. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about route parameters. Tomorrow's topic is route parameter. Route constraint, route parameter, all these things, so that we will complete the routing. Monday, you can go for controllers. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.